This is Christian Gomez with The New American. Recently, there has been much talk regarding the controversial Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, the cornerstone of President Barack Obama's pivot to Asia. The TPP is a proposed agreement to establish a free trade zone between Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, the United States, and Vietnam. Together, these 12 nations account for 40% of the world GDP. Taiwan and South Korea have also expressed interest in joining the TPP. The Obama administration has kept the text of the TPP agreement secret from the American people and Congress. A reason for this may have to do with the newly leaked TPP's Chapter 2, which proposes the creation of international tribunals superseding local, state, and federal courts. This onerous breach of national sovereignty would allow multinational corporations to circumvent the laws and courts of the United States in favor of supranational courts. WikiLeaks editor Julian Assange said, quote, "The TPP has developed in secret an unaccountable supranational court for multinationals to sue states. This system is a challenge to parliamentary and judicial sovereignty. Similar tribunals have already been shown to chill the adoption of sane environmental protection, public health, and public transport policies." End quote. These revelations further vindicate what we at The New American have previously reported relative to the assault on our sovereignty posed by the TPP. With Congress expected to vote on Trade Promotion Authority, or TPA, better known as Fast Track, shortly after returning from its Easter recess on April 13th, the Obama administration is ratcheting up its support for the TPP as it works on the finishing touches of the agreement. But with resistance building up from both the Tea Party and progressive left circles, the Obama administration is now apparently employing the China card to ensure its passage. In a recent article published online by the Los Angeles Times, Don Lee writes, quote, "In recent weeks, one Obama official after another has hammered away at the same line of argument. It's crucial that Congress support the TPP, including passing a related trade promotion bill that will strengthen the president's negotiating hand, because the alternative is that China, not the U.S., will write the rules of global trade." End quote. After leaving the reader with the fearful impression that global trade policy will be led by China, lest the U.S. pass the TPP, the Los Angeles Times article goes even further, saying, quote, "They note that China is trying to cobble together a competing 16-nation trade pact without the United States." End quote. Although not mentioned by name, the author is presumably referring to the Free Trade Area of the Asia-Pacific, or FTAAP, which proposes an even larger free trade zone than the TPP, incorporating Communist China and Vladimir Putin's Russia. But unlike what the LA Times reported, the FTAAP is not without the United States. Not only is the United States part of the FTAAP, it was also one of its original sponsors. Of the FTAAP's origins, senior Chinese diplomatic official Li Xiongzhao stated the following in a guest article he recently penned for the Huffington Post. Quote, "The initiative was first formally proposed by the APEC at its Hanoi summit as early as in 2006 and endorsed by all the 21 APEC leaders, including then United States President George W. Bush." End quote. In fact, it was during the administration of Republican President George W. Bush that then U.S. Trade Representative Susan Schwab, member of the CFR Council on Foreign Relations, praised APEC at the organization's 2007 meeting in Cairns, Australia, and endorsed the FTAAP. Ambassador Schwab said, quote, "FTAAP is a visionary proposal that APEC is well suited to take on," end quote. She further added, quote, "By more effectively knitting together the dynamic economies of the region, an FTAAP would someday yield enormous social and commercial benefits for the people of the Asia-Pacific region, including the United States." End quote. Despite attempts by both the media and the Obama administration to portray the FTAAP as a menacing Chinese-backed rival to the TPP, it was in fact the federal government and globalist insiders in the United States that initially pushed for it, In light of this, Li Xiongzhao writes of the alleged TPP versus FTAAP rivalry, quote, "There have been many voices in the U.S. that have described the TPP and the Free Trade Area of the Asia-Pacific, FTAAP, as two complete competing trade initiatives and labeled the, quote, competition, end quote, as a China-U.S. tug-of-war in the Asia-Pacific region. They fear that China is trying to gain dominance in Asia-Pacific trade agendas and displace the U.S.-led TPP by pushing for the FTAAP. Although the appearance of rivalry does exist, much of the hype is overblown," end quote. Li Xiongzhao is not the first foreign official to make the same comparison about the TPP and the FTAAP's mutual compatibility. Speaking at the November 2014 APEC summit, Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak said that, quote, "There is no conflict between the two, but rather complement each other," end quote, according to the Malaysian-based Chinese newspaper Sinchu Daily. No matter how much the globalists in the government and in the media may attempt to distort the truth, it does not change the fact that the TPP is an essential first step toward a trans-Pacific union and ultimately world government. They may change their tactics and rhetoric, but their ultimate goal remains the same.